Upgrades.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? We are back here yet again, to talk about Ahsoka, who I have absolutely no idea anything about. Oh, whoa, okay. Throwing some heavy hits in there, I see. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and talk about it. I have Ronan and Chain here.
Hola.
Or not. Wait, you're saying you're invisible? Like you're John Cena now?
No. I said hola. That means hi.
Oh, I thought you said or not. I was like, what is he talking about?
No.
I'm looking right at you. Yeah, but just to let you guys know, for context, I don't remember a lot of episode 4, but I'm very anxious to see episode 5. So yeah, Ronan, I'm gonna let you literally take the helm on this one so we can kind of break it down.
Okay. Yeah, so folks, episode 4 starts off with Ahsoka, Sabine, and Huyang have made their way to Cetos, where Baylan and Shin are there and they're ready to complete the map of where they're gonna go to find Thrawn from exile. And it is the most kung fu samurai vibe this show has gone up to 11. That this episode was just you go with not just the fighting, but the aspect of point of views of a Padawan and her master, and how they both realize that the goal was to find our friend, and also at the same time prevent a big dangerous evil coming back into this galaxy. And if we can go get there first, then nobody should be able to. And that's the big predicament about the whole episode, is that, like, are we willing to do something so heartbreaking, but necessary for the galaxy to keep the safety? And it's just the back and forth throughout the whole episode of, like, what are we willing to do, and how much of Ahsoka understands the predicament that Sabine is, because she cares for Ezra and is willing to do anything for him, but also is she in the right mindset with this mission to be like, are you willing to pull the trigger and whatnot? And it's just a back and forth. And then we cut to Baylan's point of view with, the dark side users, if you will, where he says that he wants this wrapped up quick because he knows from experience that this could potentially not go well. That Ahsoka is tenacious, very not like-minded, but very committed to stopping us. And in so many ways, he doesn't want to kill her. He doesn't want to hurt her. But because of his mindset and what he's willing to do, he will put her down. And I just love the back and forth between masters and between Padawans. The way Shin Hati is so electric, quiet, and yet cold-blooded, if you will, with just facing Sabine down and making sure that she knows that out of the two of us, I'm the best one. And Sabine trying to come to grips with, okay, I got to get my end game because we're now in the battlefield. Yeah. And everybody's revealed to who Marok is, just a dead guy who used Night Sister magic. I didn't give two shits about that. That was cool for me. I didn't make up a theory. If you did, bless you. But I was just like, that makes sense. We saw that. And I think we could test this in Tales of the Jedi. For those who don't know, Ahsoka killed an Inquisitor, much like Marok, and who also dissipated into the wind, just like Marok. So this is not new. It might be new to the people who are watching Ahsoka, but it's not new to the lore, people who have seen the previous series. But look at that shot, dude. That was straight up samurai stuff. And I just love that Filoni and his team have been leading it and dialing up to 11.
Yeah. So now I'm piecing together a lot more of this. I definitely will attest that the samurai style of this, specifically with the masters, I can feel it. I mean, she's had Sabine's had a rival since episode one. I mean, she
Yeah.
technically got gutted by this chicken. All intents and purposes, she should have died. But it's very interesting to see the contrast of the two. It's like Sabine is natural, tacticianer in so many ways, what I can perceive from her without knowing too much about her. But at the same time, she's also flawed. She doesn't have it all together. She isn't a force user. Every time that she's attempted to try to even tap into the force in whatever capacity, it's not worked. But she feels very deeply. Whereas the contrast is this other one is dedicated to the cause by any means necessary and is dead set on trying to prove the difference. And the other side of that is, like you said, with Ahsoka and going up against, oh my gosh, my man Ray. He
Big
is he is a he is a he is a beast.
amazing.
He is a beast in this. Like he is fully
Yeah.
dedicated to this character that to me is one of the most interesting characters in this show because I don't know too much about him, but I can feel so much that's going on with him. It feels like he's a multi-layered Jedi that has lost the sense of, I ain't gonna say lost the sense of purpose, but has gone down a different path. And it's not like, I don't feel like he was seduced into going down a different path. I think he willingly chose. And I think that's the interesting thing of compromise, that a lot of the progressive Jedi to Seth or Seth induced people that kind of come from nothing, it's been like a seduction. Like they've been seduced and tempted to go. It's rare to see a person of conviction just choose like, no, this is kind of what I believe. Like this is it. Like this is who kind of this is the best course of action. Now I don't know what his end goal is. It feels like there's a little bit of something that I haven't pieced together with him yet. But I do love him. I love him as a character. Now, the other contrast to that, he's so convicted and to his cause, where the contrary is we know how gifted Ahsoka is. I haven't seen Rebels, of course, but I know how much of a pound she is. But I also know she's got so much conflict. She's got so much trauma, so much things that she has yet to deal with that we've talked about from even episode 1 and 2, bringing even Sabine on. Like bringing her on in and of itself was a contradiction she still hasn't dealt with yet because she left her the first time. And she also isn't assured of her own self or Sabine or her purpose. And so it's the complete opposite, which I think that is the makeup of this episode more than anything else that made me so fascinated. Now, the interesting thing was this is my big critique about this. And I know it's going to the code, but Ahsoka knows full well. There's anybody that's a manager, right? There's a balance with how you trust and allow somebody to progress, right? You go and you say, all right, this is my Padawan. I know my Padawan is not gifted in the Force. I know she's capable, but I also want to make sure she puts her best foot forward. They had not met up with that girl's master yet. Ahsoka could have helped Sabine figure that out, right? Before they even got to that point. Now, we didn't know what the timetable was. To be fair, from a timetable standpoint, it makes more sense to divide and conquer. But she knows for a fact that Sabine is not where she needs to be. And so if she would have helped Sabine, there's two different things would have happened. It's two different outcomes. One, Sabine would have been like, you didn't have enough confidence in me to kind of trust me to handle this, which would have hurt an emotional level. But that could have been, that's debatable based on what we know how it ends. The other side of that, if she did help her, it would have been like, okay, they would have taken this girl down or at least incapacitated her in some shape or form. And then there would have been a better stride towards the end goal. Because the end result is now Sabine is put down a path that is so reminiscent of Anakin on so many different levels that because it was like, he said, look, I'm going to put my sword away for a second. I'm going to put my saber away. I can feel the conflict on you. He was like, I can tell you miss Ezra. I can tell you don't even know about this and you care more about bringing him back than anything. And it was like, it reminded me of how Sidious, man, one of my favorite scenes in episode 3 is Anakin's temptation. Like his actual true temptation, the moment that like he kind of convicted him to believe that his actions would save his wife's life. And I always love that shot of Anakin kind of dealing with that and tearing up, looking out into the window right before he makes the action. Now, I'm not saying this is the same, but it's so many different similarities because what I love about Rey's character is he is strong in the force of sensing anything. It's almost like he can read everything on the person, not just reading the mind, but the emotions and everything behind it. But I had an issue with it. I get it, but I was like, man, Ahsoka, you should have just followed her and worked through it with her. Now they probably would have ran out of time, but I don't know. That was one thing I kind of felt like was a niche in this episode for me.
I could understand that, and to me, what makes it more humanistic and more, I could see that point of view. What much like Sabine's decision, I don't think it's a smart one, but I understand it because I don't know how I would do it, how I would handle that situation if I was in her shoes. But I like in the fight with Shin Hati is that Sabine is the one that tells her, "Go, get the map. I've got this." And I remember the whole time, even up until when they're Shin and Sabine's fight goes on, and Sabine tries to connect to the Force and doesn't connect, and Shin just like you suck, basically tells her like you have nothing to do. But I've been telling folks, I'm like, just because she doesn't have the Force doesn't mean she has an ace up her sleeve. And that was one of my favorite moments of the episode when she tries to pull the Force doesn't respond. But what does she do? She pulls out her grappling cannon gun, whatever blaster thing is, and shoots off Shin's saber. And like, all right, I might not have the Force, but I can still counter move you and whatnot, which it speaks to what the Mandalorians have been able to do for centuries and why they're just as much of a rival to the Jedi as the Sith. Now, of course, the Sith are the Force guys and blah blah blah, but the Mandalorians are built, have things to counter abilities like that. And I just, dude, look at that lighting. Oh my god, look at that lighting. But yes, I understand the notion, and I like that with Balin. You understand him to an extent. You don't side with him. I mean, depending. I mean, there's a lot of people in the fandom who love the bad guys, but I don't side with him. But I understand where he's coming from, um, and I remember watching it. I have it recorded, and one day I'll post it. But I remember just saying the whole time because he's telling Ahsoka, everybody knew about Anakin, but not a few knew what happened to him and whatnot. And he just barking her up. He's just trying to rile Ahsoka up to fight him and whatnot to get her on balance. And yet the whole time he doesn't want to do this. I mean, look at that. That look says, okay, I did what I had to do. Let's move forward. He's not celebrating that I just beat Ahsoka or I took down the enemy one. He's just like, all right, job's not done. Let's finish the job.
Yep.
And look at that dynamic with Morgan Elsbeth. She's very, God, confident out the wazoo, which their dynamic is also a unique one because she's so, she says she knows I got this covered and whatnot, and he's like, you're not experienced with Jedi's like I am. You're not experienced with people like this. I am. So let's get this going already. Don't leave it to chance. Don't play it till a last minute thing. And I also want to give kudos in this episode to the team who built whatever sets they had to build and the volume. Very few times that I noticed the volume in frames, but throughout the whole time, I'm like, this is damn gorgeous. You could see the money they're putting into making it like this and whatnot. Yeah, it's just I love that the scenario, the set, the music from the great Kevin Kiner and his children are nutritions, are proteins to what the writing is doing and what these actors are giving us in their performance.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say about Balin or Rey's character is that when he captured Sabine, and like he said, you have my word, you know, nothing will come to you. And then his apprentice was like, oh no, I'm about to kill this chick. It's like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
And the weird thing is, normally a Seth handling something like that, they would say, no, this person can be used, you know, or no, let's go ahead and kill him. It wasn't even that. I don't know if in the back of his head he thinks he can use this person to make him a second apprentice. I just think he intentionally, he's being a man of his word. I don't think he wanted to, like you said, I don't think he wanted to kill Ahsoka. I think he sees the promise in Sabine and what she's capable of without even using the Force. And so I think that he kind of connected with her. And it's so interesting because I feel like Balin's end is going to be his apprentice, honestly, because they're so contradictory of each other. Whereas, like, I don't know, it's kind of like it seems like they're fire and fire, but they're really not. And it's like with Ahsoka and Sabine, where they really don't look like they do mesh, they really do. Like, they're just connected. I don't even know how to really describe it.
Hu Yang said it. You two are best when you're together.
Yeah.
And look at the Sith history. Always two there are, a master and apprentice. And what happens? Eventually, the apprentice tries to kill the master and find a new apprentice to become the main Sith Lord. It's a power play. I mean, Sidious did that with his master. And then Vader eventually, in the trilogy, tried to do that with Luke and be like, kill him. We could kill him.
Yeah. I think the difference with Balin, with Rey's character, is that I hate to say it, and maybe they're gonna prove me wrong. I don't think he's a Seth. I don't know how to describe it. Like, his actions are dark, but everything about him does not. It's just wrong. It doesn't. Nothing about him really gives me the sculpt of a refined Seth Lord at all.
Yeah, it's almost like the other side of the Ahsoka's coin. It's almost like Ahsoka's not a Jedi, but embodies the values of the Jedi. And Balin's not a Sith, but he's leaning towards that side and whatnot without, making a mesh about it. If he was truly a Sith, he would have made Morgan his sidekick and be like, I'm in charge now, whatnot. He's just an observant. He's doing the job. And that's what makes him intriguing. That's what everyone's like tuning each week to be like, what little bit more info of his are we going to get? What more attitude are we going to get from him? And look at that, man. Oh, yeah. Look at that, Natasha.
Now, I'm going to say this because I got to bring it up before we go to this 5th episode, which we're about to go to. I do think all these Disney Plus shows do this. All of them. Whether it's WandaVision with Quicksilver and the Mutants, whether it was Falcon and the Winter Soldier with, the possibility of bringing Cap back and showing Cap if Cap's dead. Like, all these different shows, with the exception of Loki, which thank God Loki had a real good punch. They always leave an impression that, oh, wow, hope for this. This is what this possibly could be. And I got to bring the character up, regardless of how they ended it, regardless of how, it didn't really matter necessarily to me. But there was absolutely no need for this character at all, except to entice and make people excited about the promise of who the character could be. That's undeniable. And it's like, I hate when Disney does that, because what you do is kind of like, I don't want to say you alienate your audience, but it's like, it was unneeded. Like, either one, make him a brand new character that's interesting, it's kind of like 50-50, or two, kind of just leave the character out. Like, they left this character alive too long to just be a fake me out. Because that's what it played like, unfortunately. Like, it was just unnecessary. Like, I would have preferred them leave the character completely out of it, tell these two interesting contradictory stories of these rival Jedi and Lords, and go that route. Because he was kind of like, everybody was like speculating, and I get the hype. That's what Marvel and Disney do. They use something to build hype, right? But in this situation, honestly, bro, like, either one, I wish it would have kind of been like symbolic of something else, or two, just left it completely out. But again, I digress. I don't think that they'll bring any more about this character in the 5th episode. I think it was just a one shoot and it's done. So
Well, I'll say this: I didn't have a problem with it because I learned my lesson from the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren was one of the things that I was most pumped going to Force Awakens, and there was just nada. And then Last Jedi, literally nada. And then Rise of Skywalker, well, cool action figures. That's it. With more, I think in hindsight, I never theorized stuff. I heard rumors and theories. I'm like, that'd be cool, but let's see what Filoni does. And I think what he did was he captured people's attention visually, and then he killed them off like a ghost and whatnot. And not because he wanted to subvert expectation and whatnot, but he was just showing people who aren't familiar with Star Wars an element to the dark side or to the bad guys that like you could be used as an evil or as bad guys even after you're dead. If you look specifically at how that character dies, you can see his arm shrinking and him yelling and whatnot. That it's like that's how messed up and mystical that side of evil is. Is that even it's not one thing that they use you while you're alive. They'll use you again when you're dead, and then once you're done, you're thrown away like dust in the wind. So that's why I appreciated that iconography with it. And yeah, I know people were yelling out the wazoo, but like, how dare they make me, whatnot. I'm like, he looked visually. I knew the focus from the get go. And again, I'm not a writer.
yeah,
And when I like the focus is Shin Team Balin and Sabine and Ahsoka. Those are the yin and yangs. Anything else is protein and whatnot, which leads
yeah,
to what I liked about what they did with Hera in this episode, where it's just like, okay, she's there to help. She doesn't know what she's getting into, but she's there to help and is willing to disobey orders and whatnot. So I get your gripes. I do see that as a trend here and there with other things. Ralph Boner thing is something that I will never let it down. Doesn't mean I lose sleep over it, but I'm like, that was a dick move, no pun intended.
yeah. It was just unnecessary, and I think that's my biggest gripe with it. It was like everything else about the episode was amazing, but I kind of was like, I would have rather that character just not existed. Like it just didn't add or make value to anything else. And like just looking at a scene like this is such a samurai shot, bro. And I ain't even talked about the coup de grace because this is gonna be our segue into the end of this moment right here, where I was like, hey, what's going on here? Who's this guy? And again, I've not seen Rebels. I've not done Clone Wars. But I know Anakin Skywalker when I see his gosh darn tail, and I know what this looks like. It looks like something that anyway. I'm just that made me so excited to whatever we're about to watch right now. At this point now, I'm ready to just go ahead and start the episode. But.
I just want to say this, that, and I have it recorded. I just have it kept after a certain period that I'm waiting for. That when I saw this, it was where she ended up by the end of that episode. It's one thing I called in early theory videos that I put out. And again, I rarely do theory videos, but because I've been hyped for the show, I put out 2 videos. And yeah, I knew exactly where she showed up. How she showed up there, I'm not sure still. But I heard the echoes, and I heard "Hello, Snips," and I literally was like yelling to the. If you want, I'll show you later some B-roll. But when you see my footage, I was literally yelling, and I was just like near tears when that happened because the circle is now being completed. And all I'm gonna say is, Sammy, just hold on to your butts. That's all I'm gonna say.
All right. Well, you guys, if you enjoyed this, stay tuned. We're about to watch episode 5, like literally right now. I'm gonna end this video. So you guys will see the end of this, but we're going to actually record a reaction to the next episode. That'll be my first time watching it. And then right after you see that, we'll probably talk about whatever the heck everybody in the world has been ranting about. We'll be right back. Find these darn outro. We out. Filing out the top of the I can see the skyline, 50 mile radius on the timeline. Ain't nothing.